Hello, everyone. Reggie Time here with Simon. Simon has reported to me that he's had a shit week. He's lost a mighty two buy-ins, so thoughts and prayers with Simon for his significant losses. And how are you, Simon?
I'm good, thank you, mate. Yeah, very good.
Uh,
Don't like
to,
losing money.
Today we've had a little look before the session. Um, Show some hands between us. I don't know the results of them as such. I kind of Um, didn't pick them based on the results. I picked them based on lines that it looked like Simon played without looking at the hands, just looking at the grid and looking at the lines that had been taken. Simon's red line's been very, very shit. We're going to try and get to the bottom of why that is because it's 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 pretty obvious that's why you haven't been doing well this last week or so, fella. Because your red line is just like your blue line's decent, but your red line's worse than it.
Mm, yeah, yeah.
And that's when that's happening, we're going to be losing. So yeah, we're just going to get stuck into these hands, and we're going to try and see like what you're thinking, and then we're going to see if we can spot anything in there, like there's a little bit of like negativity, a little bit of lack of confidence, or what have you. Because you're not a fucking it's not like you're a terrible player, but you are, your confidence seems to be very very low, and I think some of that's to do with your lack of volume and your lack of consistency, and a little bit of short term result orientation. And then maybe a little bit of that because you play in that really soft games, a little bit of fucking hell. If I'm not beating these games, when am I ever going to do well? And that in itself, if you're playing your soft games and you're going through a bit of a rough patch, and 4,000 hands is nothing. It might seem a lot to you because you don't play very much. So in terms of like how many days or how many sessions that's been over, it might feel like fuck, I'm never going to win again. But in the big scheme of things, 4,000 hands is literally nothing. But because of your not playing as much as a lot of players do, it'll seem like more of a big deal. So I think we need more of a mindset shift. We also had a little look at your race first in by position, and this is a little bit of pot calling kettle black. But even by my standards, we spotted a couple of things that really just weren't good enough. You were like, well, yeah, I've used range charts, but you're off in a couple of spots, so just need to like refamiliarize yourself with like your open range from button a small blind. And I'm only saying that because there'll be of all 60 people who watch this video, maybe 35 of them or 40 of them will have the same problem where they just don't raise first and enough from the small blind and button particularly. Because it's just not comfortable raising a lot of the hands that we want to raise from those positions. Like when you're low on confidence, do you really feel like raising the ace four off on the small blind? Probably not, because you're like, well, it's just it's a mandatory open, ace four off, ace five, that type of thing. But it's not a hand that you're looking forward to playing. So a lot of the time, it's easy when you're low on confidence, but like fuck it, can't be asked, not doing that. And then when you're on the button, some of the wider opens, like your queen four suited, you're like, well, you know what, I'm not feeling good. I'm not feeling like I'm playing well. I don't really want to play this hand. I've got two people in the blind who I don't expect to fold, or they're aggressive, or they might three bet me, or whatever. And it's really easy to just like miss a lot of the standard opens, which actually just make money. They might not make a lot, but they make money, and they pad your range out, so you're not just like having strong hands when you open. But these are all mental game leaks because you know that you're not opening wide enough, and either consciously or subconsciously, you're choosing not to. And that's something that you can work on your own. All you need is for me to kick you up the ass and say you're not doing that. Fucking get on with it, and then you can do the rest of that work yourself because you've got the same access to range chat that everybody else has.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's a really good summary of where I'm at. I think that yeah, he's absolutely spot on.
It's an easy summary to make because we've all been there. There won't be a single
Yeah,
person watching this video who hasn't been there, who hasn't opened hands, who's like open folded hands they know are opens just because they're lacking confidence. You, me, and almost everyone watching this video. So it's not like it's something that's unique to you, but it is a mental block and it's one you need to get over. But I get why when you're losing, and you're like you seem every time you play you seem to lose. I get why you're like fuck me. Well, I'm losing, playing quite tight. Why would I want to play even looser? So I get why that's an easy like jump to make, and it's a pitfall I've fallen into a million times, and I'll fall into it again. As I said, there's a whole lot of hypocrisy from me telling you off for it when it's a trap I fall into myself. But the thing is, you've got to notice when you fall into it, and you've got to get yourself out of it quickly because you can't go around just opening 28% of buttons. You're not going to be a winning player doing that.
No, that's fair
Anyways,
point.
let's crack on with these hands.
Okay. Okay, so fairly standard open here. We
We
get
have
a
a nice big
defend.
fat juicy whopper in the big. We like that.
Yeah. Okay, so well, let's hope I bet. Because
Well, okay, right. But this is interesting because like we should always bet this.
Right.
But it's a matter of like we've got some sizing choices here because, for example, maybe you could just be because of like, the board texture and what have you. I guess a lot of players here you wouldn't necessarily want to be going starting building a big pot straight away against a big blind because there's loads of cards that can come off that like really damage the strength of our hand, like a club, like a six, sorry, a 5, a 6, or a 7, a 9 or a 10, or a queen or a king. So there's loads of like cards that aren't great for us. So it's easy to think, well, I'll just like bet quite small here, and then see what develops. But then you also got the counter argument of I'm up against a 71-33. Do I want to just overbet here and just like get value from the stuff that isn't folding to like large bets like flush draws, 8x, worst jack x, straight draws, etc. And I'm interested to see which one you go with because like I think there's like a theoretical size here, and then there's an in practice size against someone who looks like they're just headbutting the keyboard. So like, what do you think you not in theory? What do you think you should go in practice here?
I think it should be fairly large on the larger side here against the particular player.
I think so too. I think we can, even though it's just not a thing in theory, I think we could just play overbet here.
I don't think I'll overbet here. I'm pretty sure I won't do that, but I equally don't think it will just be third. But like we'll see. But I think it would be on the large side, maybe 2/3, something like that.
Let's see what we do.
Oh, half.
Half.
Okay.
I think we can both agree that's not big enough.
No, absolutely.
Against this villain.
As I say, I think looking at the situation, if I was playing it now, that would be bigger than that, definitely. But
yeah, I mean, I think that's like if you're playing against a reg, you maybe want to go even smaller than that. Maybe you'd want to go that. Maybe I don't know exactly. I mean, I'd run loads of drills now in GTO Wizard, and I'd running loads of my own hands in the analyzer, and I still make loads of sizing errors because they're just so fucking nuanced. There might be something about this board that makes it significantly favour one side over another, and then when I'm analysing, I'm like, well, I can't see what that fucking thing is. Like maybe if the 4 was a 3, we'd go small. But because the 4's a 4, so it presents more straight draws. Maybe we don't make. Sorry, maybe if the 4 was a 3, we'd go big. But if the 4's with the 4 being a 4, we go smaller because of how much the board can change. And I don't understand. I make loads, and I don't make too many frequency errors. I think this is always a bet, but in terms of sizing, I make loads of errors in theory. But I'm not worried about theoretical sizing versus this guy. I'm worried about all I'm wanting is which sizing makes me the most money in a complete vacuum in this exact spot. And I think versus this player, the size that makes us most money is big bet and over bet, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it could definitely be bigger here. He just calls. Not.
It's not a great card,
No,
but it's not absolutely terrible. Yeah, some of his range improves. A lot of it doesn't. His flush draws haven't improved. His straight draws haven't improved. We're still ahead of all his Jack X. Still ahead of 4x. So yeah, it's not a brilliant card, but we've gone from being really happy to try and get stacks in against the 71 VPIP with just top pair to now maybe like, right, okay, maybe we can't play for stacks anymore, but we can still maybe try and get some value for our hand.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He checks. I'm presuming I'm going to bet again here, but I'm not quite sure sizing wise. Again, I think it's
Yeah, I think in theory we just check here in
yeah.
theory land. Again, against this player, I think there's value in betting, but we just can't bet big anymore.
No.
I think if I was in game now, I'd probably be in the 2/3 pot region again. Just knowing that players like this are just going to call with enough worse hands to make 2/3 pot reasonable.
Okay.
Nothing much more going into it than that.
Yeah. So I'll go half again.
Half again.
Which he calls. So then we river two. Well, yeah, we had two.
You've not done a very good run out here, have you? Really?
No, and it's just you've got all sorts of stuff's just got there. It's flush draws, isn't it? And
so let's see what happens.
Now he bets big. Now
he leads out for pot, right? Okay.
Yeah, and
so what's he saying he's got here? Do you think?
Well, flush is any 8x really. I think that's what he's saying. I mean, he hasn't got. Yeah, I think he's got flushes here, or an 8, and
his value is pretty easy to identify. It's going to be, I think, more flushes than 8x because it feels weird that 8x doesn't raise the turn and then leads the river on the club. That feels fucking weird to me. It feels like it doesn't feel right. I mean, it could happen because we're playing a 71 VPIP and they do random things. I think it's more likely to be a flush than an 8, but I agree 8's in there for value too.
Yeah.
Do you think he's doing this with 6-5, 6-7, 10-9 very often? And this is where it's going to be like relatively read based against your opponent.
No, I don't think this player's doing that at all.
So like them bottom numbers, what are they? Are they like a aggression per street sort of thing?
Down here, yeah.
That's my HUD you're using. That's
I'm
my
using
HUD.
yours, yeah.
Right, okay. Right, so okay, right, good. So he's never bet a turn, he's never bet a river, but it's not over much of a sample. Can you hover over the 2 zeros, just see what sample? It can't be much of a sample. Not from what? Yeah, it's going to be just not. So this is like the... So that they're both going to be, after this, going to be like, the second one's going to be 50%, isn't it? Yeah. 71-33. Those hundreds on the third line down, he's fold to bet. So he's quite happy to fold post flop. Can you hover over them?
Yeah.
So 1 from 1 on the river.
Yeah, 1 from 1. It's a very small sample size.
All 1 from 1, is it? Oh no, it's folded 4 from 4 on the flop.
Yeah.
So the fact he's stuck around on the flop would suggest he's either got like a jack, an 8, or a flush draw most of the time. But there will be some straight draws too.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to analyse is like how often. Because we don't beat value here. I think we can both agree with that. Or maybe we do. What if do you think he does this with a hand like ace? Could he walk and he's folding? No, I was going to say, can he get to this with like maybe ace 4? Would he ever do this with ace 4? Now he's rubbing his ace and betting.
I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I've got very little on him, so it's very hard to say. But
the minute I'm leaning to fold, I'm just trying to find bluffs or value that we beat. That's all I'm like trying to flesh out here, because obviously we think we don't beat value, but if he ever has ace 4, then we beat that. We beat 10-9, we beat 6-5, we beat 6-7, we beat queen 9. And this is close, because the minute if he could just somehow randomly have an ace, because he's just basically saying I've got a flush, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean the way it's been played, I think I should be folding here. But
I don't think we're making a lot of money on the call. I think if we bet smaller, I think we have an easy call. When he pots it, probably fold. If he'd let out for like 2/3 or something here, or even 3/4. It would just push me towards like, oh fuck's sake, probably call because I think like obviously folding 0 EV, and I think calling versus 2/3 or 3/4 probably makes a tiny bit of money versus pot probably just folding. Yeah, I think probably just for if you're saying you don't think he's like doing this with 10-9, 6-7, 7-8, then we just have to fold because
I just don't think
he
he is.
doesn't have
But
because he just
yeah,
we he doesn't have the bluffs to make us
yeah.
want to call.
I mean, as I say, I've got 21 hands on the guy, so I don't know enough. But
Okay.
yeah, I don't think I'm going to like what I do. I just think, shall we forward it on?
Yep.
I think it's going to be horrible. I do call. Yeah,
So okay.
I don't make this call. I don't think. Again, I think looking at it, I think, yeah, you know, he's led out there, and I'm not in love with.
Check call donk from Fish is quite a strong line to be fair
Yeah,
when the board changes.
I'm not in love with this call at all, to be honest with you.
So why do you think you've made it then?
That's a really good question.
Did I know from our chats like this and the chats we have when we're not recording that you're easily good enough to beat the pool you're playing easily? It's not even a decision. It's just that pool is that soft that I mean, you could be a lot better. Don't get me wrong, and you've got loads of improvements you can make. But even your game as is right now, based on the conversations we have, should be winning. But you're not taking your out of game game into actual game time. You know, there's something that isn't connecting the two up. Because there's so many times we'll talk about hands. So many times I wouldn't do this now. I wouldn't do this, but you do. You routinely are doing these things. So why do you think this disconnect's happening? Where you're like in here now, you've established, yeah, I would fold this, but you haven't. And if we went back over all the conversations we've had, you have loads of decisions that I wouldn't do this now. But then the next times you play, you are doing them again. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's in game. I think it does come back to the mindset thing. Really, I think, you know, I'm probably not thinking it through the spot properly, like we just have talked it through there. I'm not saying we need all that time to do it, but I haven't questioned what's he doing this with, you know, and why have we all of a sudden got to a point where he's donking the river.
Yeah,
which is a strong line, like you say, and it's just, I think it's a terrible call, to be honest with you. I just don't.
No, terrible. You're being too harsh on yourself with terrible. It's close, but because you think he doesn't have the bluffs, then it's a losing call. If we think he can have bluffs here, if we think he can have the 10-9, the 6-7, the 6-5, then it's not a terrible call. But the minute you rule them out, if you say, well, I don't think this guy gets to the river with those hands and then bets, then yeah, you're right. Once we take most of the bluffs from his range, it just become a terrible call then because we lose to too much value.
I think possibly just, you know, again, it's just a very small sample size, but I'm looking at his stats and thinking, but yeah, I don't think this is a good call.
So again,
against this player,
why are we having this disconnect then?
Yeah, well, I need to think these spots through more in game. And I need to think about what his range is and what he's doing that with, and because there's so much we lose to out there, isn't there? You know.
Okay, I've got two questions then. One, why aren't you already doing that?
Yeah.
Right, question.
Yeah.
It's a question, fella. No, why aren't you already like try to do some range analysis in game?
Yeah, I not. Yeah, I should be. But
secondly, right, okay, so we know you're not doing it. What are you going to do about it so you start doing
it? To be much I've just got to take more time. Got to look at how we've got to where we've got to. Why is he? You know, he's called flop and turn, and then he leads river. That from this type of player, that's telling me he's strong, and I've got to recognise that in game.
Yeah, so that's my point. But what are you going to actually change about next time you log in? Are you going to do anything? Are you going to do anything differently to try and make sure that you're just trying as hard as you can to do some range analysis before clicking the button? What are you going to do different to change how often you're doing that kind of thing?
I think it's very much about the mindset, because I probably in my head here thinking you can't have me beat again or something like that. Do you know what I mean? It's like I don't. I can't
So the
specifically
emotional
tell.
side of your brain
Yeah,
is like blocking the logical side of your brain.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah,
Because what I wanted to get to is like we didn't record last week, but we had a long chat anyway, and you were saying how you got to have quite a few tables running because if you don't, you lose focus,
yeah.
and then you're looking around the room, you're looking at your phone because you get bored and what have you. I didn't pick up on that last week because last week you were in the it felt like you're a little bit low, and I wasn't willing to be a cunt with you basically. Um,
But now
but
you will.
now I will, yeah, because you can't have it both ways,
No,
right?
agreed.
You're saying here that like whatever you need to take more time, but maybe if you're playing four or however many tables you're playing, you feel rushed. So then when then most of the time because you're only VPipping around 20 something percent, you may be only playing like I don't know. You're very rare. You're going to be in two spots at once,
Hmm.
so you shouldn't feel that rushed. But then you're still not when you're in a spot, you're still not doing your work properly. So like, uh, what is it that's making you switch? You say you want the four tables to bring more focus, but then in a spot like this, we're looking at this hand. You clearly haven't been focused. You've allowed something to distract from your focus and just let the emotional side take over. I can't be beat again, so I'm just going to call, which is obviously rubbish logic.
Yeah.
It's obviously letting past results influence this spot, which we all fall. It's a trap we all fall into because we're human beings, not robots. But the better you are as a player, the less that's going to affect you, and the more you're going to be able to separate that from, maybe he bets, and for the first few seconds, like fuck's sake, I'm not beating again, am I? And then the logic kicks in and like, right, well, let's have a little think. Whereas if you're just like he bets, you're like, fuck me, I don't believe you, mate, and you're calling within like 5 seconds without actually analysing the situation, then it's like, is it because you're playing too many tables? Is it because you just once the emotion takes over, you can't switch back to logical quickly enough? There's got to be something. So far, you haven't given me a good enough answer. You've been quite wishy washy with your answer. I'm just going to have to make sure I'm focusing more. But what are we actually going to do to improve that focus?
Mm.
Like when you're going through this hand, right? When you bet the flop, he's called. Are you actually thinking, right? Okay, well, I think now he's got a jack X. I think he's got 8X. I think he's got flush draws. I think he's got straight draws. Then the 8 comes on the turn. He check calls again. So then are you then thinking yourself, right, well, okay, I'm losing to 8X now. I'm still beating jack X and I'm still beating flush draws. Then when the river comes and he leads, are you then thinking, well, I'm losing to 8X, I'm losing to flushes. So therefore, what bluffs does he have here? Or are you having none of those sorts? And is your thought just, oh, I've got top pair, bet. Oh, he's checked. Oh, I've got top pair, still bet. And then river, oh shit, now he's betting to me and I've got top pair. But now I've got top two pair. I can't be losing again. Just call. So are you just thinking about your hand? Or are you going through a thought process which includes per street, like trying to, like redefine your opponent's range every street?
I would say more the former there than the latter at the
Yeah, you're
minute.
just thinking about your own hand and
Yeah,
how it's doing
yeah.
on the board. Yeah,
A
that's
little,
fair
a
enough.
little bit. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
you've got to do that, of course.
Yeah,
But you've also got to be at the same time. Okay, well, this board isn't that good for me anymore. Like on the flop, the board's really good for us. On the turn, it's less good for us. On the river, our absolute hand strength improves because we improve from one pair to two pair, but our relative hand strength goes down because we lose to trips and flushes, which we weren't doing on the flop. On the flop, we were only losing to sets and two pairs. On the turn, we're now losing to trips and full houses, and on the river, we're losing to trips, full houses, and flushes. So our hands got significantly weaker down the streets. Every street that's come, it's weakened the absolute strength. It's weakened the relative strength of our hand. And if you're not being aware of that, or if you're aware of it but you're not paying attention to it, then again, it's things that if you want to ever like do well and like regularly play well and make money, you've got to be acknowledging when like strength of range flips from you've got a range advantage to he's got a range advantage. And if you're not doing that, if you're just looking at your absolute hand strength, like right, well I've got two pair now, I'm not folding. Um, and really ignoring the fact that from flop to river, our hands got weaker every street,
Yeah,
then
no,
you're not doing a good job. And that's what you need to be focusing on. Yeah, fine, I've still got top pair, but villain's range strengthened, so my hand's not as strong anymore. But against this particular villain, 71-33, I still have a value bet on the turn. So that's the thought process you go through, right? That is not good for me. However, villain's a moron, so I think there's still enough value in my hand to squeeze out another bet. Then on the river, when he leads out, you've just thought, I can't be beat again, I call. Whereas the actual thought process is, well, actually now, from flop to river, villain's range has strengthened significantly, the mine's weakened. Because we don't have 8x, because we probably
no, we
don't bet
don't.
the flop with 8x.
No.
We don't necessarily always have flush draws, because sometimes we don't bet the turn with a flush draw. So we have less flushes than villain has. We have less 8x than villain has.
Yeah,
And you still got a
absolutely.
pot size bet on the river.
Yeah,
And I get you can't go through all of that in 30 seconds. But if you're never doing it, you're never going to get half decent at doing it, generally speaking. It's like anything else. Like Usain Bolt didn't just wake up one day and be able to run 100 meters in 9.58 seconds. He didn't. He trained for it, and he trained it, and then his muscle memory just got him better and better and better and better and better. And we have the same with our brains when we're playing poker. Poker's a mind sport. We have to increase our muscle memory in our brain, and we do that by practicing and resting. That's how we do it. You do plenty of fucking resting because your volume isn't that great, but you don't do enough practicing either. So your muscles, frankly, it's always flabby. You're like me. Your muscle is like my fucking actual body. It's just fucking flabby and not fit for purpose. But there's no reason why it can't be.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think I think you're absolutely spot on. I think what I'm not doing is looking at it as each street comes, how that's changed. Like that, you make a good point there. How his range is, changing and what he's likely to have here. What's he calling with? And that's one way of doing it as well. I think I can improve on his through the streets and not just making that decision on the river as such.
Yeah, lately your hand reading seems like it's taken a turn for the worse.
Yeah.
It
I
feels
agree.
It feels like you're not really doing it. You're just looking at, right, what's my absolute hand strength, and that's the line I'm going to take, rather than, what does both ranges look like? Like, what should our course be here? I guess obviously we're going to have pocket jacks. We're going to have pocket aces. We will have the occasional flush, pocket fours. Like I say, we probably don't have 8x, but we might have against this player because he's bad enough where we might just continue betting. We might just continuation bet 8x here against this player. So, like, we don't have loads of hands that can call this river, but we don't need loads of hands to call it because he's bet full pot.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I think we've done this one to death now, so we'll move on to the next one because we've done 28 minutes and we've looked at one hand. But I think we had a lot of decent discussion that isn't just relevant to you, it'll be relevant to so many people who watch this.
And that's what you had. So, that's...
Ah, right, okay.
Yeah, I know you like the results, so yeah.
Well, I do, but if we didn't show results, I'd get even less viewers, and I'm not getting many as it is.
Dear. Right, okay. Is up here, isn't it? I'll move on.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that's it. Right, okay. Bit annoying. What's going on now? Move that out of the way a little bit. Right, okay. Pocket queens. We are 3-bet.
Why are we 3-bet 4x?
Too big?
Oh, way too big.
Mm-hmm.
I think like 9 or 10x is fine. 3 to 3 point. I was watching something the other week. I can't remember which one it was now. I think it was one of the upswing things. Gary Blackwood, I think it was, saying that in position raises 3 to 3.3x. So anything 9 or 10 here is fine. This is we're playing in a fishy pool against fish, so I don't necessarily think this is bad. But it's definitely theoretically it's quite a few pips too big. Not the end of the world though.
Okay.
But again, that's something that Simon, when he was in good shape, when we've been chatting for years now, fucking pre-COVID, that's how long ago. That's how long we've been chatting, and the Simon that this isn't you. You know that 4x in position 3 bets aren't really a thing. but maybe it's a specific adjustment to this villain. If it is, if you just said this guy's a moron, I just want a 3-bet bigger because I want to play a bigger point in position against him, and I'm like, yeah, cool. When you say, is it too big, like questioning it almost with the upwards inflection at the end of it, implying it's a question, that's like, either what, do you actually not know it's too big anymore, or are you thinking that Reg hasn't understood I've done it this size because the guy's a moron? So, like, is this a conscious decision to make it this size as an adjustment to your opponent, or is this just, I'm going to go queens because they're vulnerable, I'm going to make it a bit bigger, whereas if you had aces, would you have gone a bit smaller maybe?
This particular, I have got a read on this particular villain. However, I don't actually like what I've done here, to be fair at all, because they don't actually they limp a lot of hands. So raising under the gun, they're going to be fairly strong. Yeah, so I'm not sure I really like the sizing. I don't want to just obviously call here, but we've got 2 regs here in the pot. I think that was maybe my thought process there.
So you're raising bigger to throw the regs out behind?
Yeah, I wanted to be up against this villain. Yeah, definitely.
So if you just made this €2 here rather than €2.40, how much difference do you think that makes to villain 6 and villain 7's?
Yeah, probably not a great deal.
No,
to be fair,
it doesn't make any difference whatsoever. When it's open and middle position and cut off 3-bet, they're just going to have their ranges, and they're going to be cold 4-betting or folding nearly all the time because both look like regs. So they're going to be cold 4-betting or folding nearly all the time. So yeah, they're not going to be size sensitive here very often at all. If it's a fish behind, maybe they might be size sensitive, but regs aren't going to be. So if it was to dissuade the regs behind from coming in, just the fact you're 3-betting is going to be enough to like try and get heads up with this bloke. You don't need to make it as big as you have.
That's fair.
Anyway, it doesn't matter because we've got a premium hand and we're against a whopper. So I have no issue with it on that basis. But I have an issue with like the reason for why you've done it. And if the reason if you just said, I want to make it bigger because this guy's fucking rubbish and I think he costs too much versus 3-bets, I'd have been like, fucking brilliant, let's go. But you didn't say that. You said you did it because you wanted to make sure you achieve isolation, which I think you do.
But smaller anyway, yeah.
Yeah, if this is €2 or €2.40, I don't think it makes any difference as to like villain 6 and villain 7's response.
Fair enough. No problems at all. Yeah, agree. They call obviously, and this is flop.
Oh, what a delightful flop!
It's quite nice. They check.
So before you click anything, what size? Right, I don't expect you to know what size theory goes here. And to be frank, I don't know what size theory goes because I've talked about earlier. I'm making loads and loads of fucking sizing errors. But what size do you think we should go in practice here?
I think on the probably on the larger size.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
this guy's just going to have so many hands that wants to continue. He's going to be like none of his pocket pairs are folding, unless maybe if he's got like deuces and threes and things. But you said he limps pre sometimes, so he's probably limping them.
Yeah, it's 48-19, so there's a lot of limps in there. So he's got doesn't 3-bet very often either.
Yeah, he's going to have a lot of stuff in there that just is going to fold. He's going to have king jack. He's going to have queen jack. He's going to have 10-9. He's going to have like 8-9. He's going to have plenty of stuff here that's just completely whiffed and it's going to fold. So I think whether we bet like 1/3 or 3/4 here, I don't think it's going to change the way he plays his range very much. Yeah, I think on these boards they're either continuing or they're not. I think like villains are very inelastic here, like fish. They've either got a hand they've either got a hand like 6s, 8s, 9s, 10s, flush draws that are just calling no matter what size you bet, or he's got a hand that's just going to fold if we just fucking sneeze on the pot. So I think under those conditions, we just bet big.
Yeah, and I hope that's what I do. But
I'd like to see 3/4 pot here. I'd like to see like getting up towards like €3.84.
Yeah. Okay. Well, no.
No. You've just gone with the lazy shit reg 1/3, haven't you?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, we bet. That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, like you just need to do a bit more like raging villain in terms of like, right, okay, but he's got hands like I just did then. He's either got hands he's folding or he's got hands he's not folding. On
Yeah.
5-5-7 in a 3-bet pot, it's one or the other. He's not going to be that sensitive to size, in my opinion. So when they're not going to be sensitive to size, we just bluff for this size, and we just bet big for value because they're fucking rubbish. You have ace king here, bet this size. You have aces here, fucking bet 3/4 pot. And it doesn't matter. You could just exploit these guys when they're in a spot where they're not going to be size sensitive. Just choose the size that your hand wants to go. Like with ace king here, just a cheap bluff 1/3 pot, get him to fold out. Just random nonsense. If he's got queen jack of diamonds here, and we've got ace king of spades, we're quite happy when he folds for 1/3 pot. Yeah, we've got the best hand, but we're happy that he folds queen jack. But when we've got pocket queens here and he's got pocket nines, and we know he would call €4, then it's a big disaster to bet 168. So that's how exploitable they are. And that's what you want to be trying to do against these types of players. Just like they're not elastic to sizing. So with your good hands go big, with your bad hands go smaller.
You're just cutting out a little bit on the microphone there.
All right,
just on two occasions there. That's all right.
Hopefully it's not cutting out on the fucking video because it means I've bought a dud.
Yeah. That's the first 2 times that's happened, but hopefully it's just a. Are they cool? And that's the turn.
This is glorious.
Yeah.
So what are we thinking now?
Well, I want to keep betting. I'm hoping I size up here. They check.
So what's our sizing structure? What should it be here? Do you think? Do you want to go? Like we've got an SPR of 2. When we've got an SPR of 2, it's not difficult to get the money in against a calling range. But how would you think we should be going about this here against this opponent?
I think definitely on the larger side. I think 3/4 upwards really, or overbet.
I don't think we have to overbet. I think that's a bit of overkill, if you will.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, we just always have the best hand here. If we don't, it's an absolute cool. There's nothing we can do about it. But I'm thinking like, if we bet, I'm not saying we should bet half pot, but if we bet half pot here and he calls, that's going to put the pot up to 16 on the river, and we're going to be left with 12. There'll be 3/4 pot. We don't really want to do that. So then maybe if we go €5 and he calls, that's going to put 18 in the pot, leave 10 behind. That's getting a bit better. And this is what I'll be doing in game. I'll be like, right, okay, I want to kind of go close to whatever like 2E would be here. And I think I'd probably come down on about 5, because 5's just over half pot and it leaves just over half pot for the river, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So rather than thinking I just want to go big again, I'd be like, right, well, I'm happy getting this over 2 streets. I can't get it over 1 street. I can't jam. So I'm just going to get it over 2 streets. So like, what would a similar size pot be? So I start with half pot, and then realise if I go half pot, it leaves 3/4 for the river. So that's too much. I need to go a little bit bigger than half pot, because then I'm effectively, I reckon it'd be something like 60%, then shove. And then we're betting the next 2 streets for a similar percentage of the pot, which is kind of where we want to be, because if we call 60% on this turn, he's probably calling the river. Whereas I think 75%, he's always calling the river when we go 75%, but it looks then like we're trying to get all in, even to a moron. So maybe then they just lose a bit of confidence with some of their like weaker bluff catchers because we bet so big.
Yeah, I agreed. Let's see what I do. Hopefully. So go 6.
Oh, lovely.
Okay. Which they call.
It doesn't matter what the river is. We're all in, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess a 5 would have been not ideal, but maybe, who cares? And then now, yeah, no matter what happens, if he jams, we call. If he doesn't, we just bet, and that's end of hand.
I mean, I
Happy
hope
days.
hope I bet.
Yeah,
God.
we
I hope
absolutely
I do.
have to
Yeah,
bet here.
yeah. We
Yeah.
put it all in. Make call and jacks.
So why do you think then you put that hand in Mark for review? Because that's as standard gets. It's a well played hand by you. Villain's done nothing wrong. So what do you think's made you think? Oh, I just want to review that one.
Well, only because I was with their stats. I was concerned that they could easily, the way they play, they don't 3-bet a lot. Kings and aces could be there, but it's very rare, I guess. And I don't know. That's probably the only thought.
They're tough shit.
It's just tough shit's cooler,
you
isn't it?
lose your money, don't you?
That's
Absolute
it. That's
tough
absolutely
shit. Nothing you can do
absolutely.
about that.
Yeah.
Yes, I was just interested in that this when you're marking these hands because you're not sure if you played them well when you played them perfectly. That to me, or perfectly in my opinion, that to me really speaks of someone who's lacking confidence. Because this shouldn't be a hand with every reviewing. You should be like, well, that was bog standard. That was completely standard. Give yourself a pat on the back. Well played, Simon, and crack on. So this reeks of a man who's like, oh, but who knows? I'm assuming your gender there. Sorry. This reeks of a person. This reeks of a person whose confidence is through the fucking floor.
And that's what I spoke to you about that this morning, and I think that's fair. That's fair. That's a fair point.
And the way you build your confidence is just by doing the things we talked about earlier. Just make sure you're like forcing yourself to hand read properly, forcing yourself to do range analysis, even if it makes you feel uncomfortable. Because even if you don't really know what you're fucking thinking about all the time, force yourself to do it. Because if you force yourself to do it, it gets easier. It gets easier and easier. And when you're wrong, then fine, doesn't matter. You're going through the process. You're hand reading, and then like you can like have a play with GTO Wizard, or you can like talk to me more. You could post hands in the fucking Discord group that you don't do. You can do all sorts of things where you're like, right, okay, I read his range to be this, so I did this. What is my thought process like? All these things. I mean, you've got quite a lot of resources, and you don't use them. You clearly don't use GTO Wizard or like range charts because we've discussed about your like race first in being quite significantly off at the moment. You apart from talking to me, unless you're in some really cool secret Discords, you don't talk to anybody. So like basically your entire poker talking to people is 1 and a bit hours a week with me.
Yeah.
Which isn't enough. It's not when you play like relatively low volume. It's impossible to stay sharp. So we need to like if we can't get you playing more, and that's fine. If we can't, we can't. I know you're a busy man. You're a businessman. You run your own business. You love going and watching Spurs because you're clearly a fucking sadist. So I get that you haven't got loads of time to commit to it, but you could probably still do a bit more to stay a bit sharper. I think you get blunt too often.
Yeah.
Basically.
I can't disagree with that. Can't disagree with any of that.
Next one, sir.
Pocket aces. So
this looks like same villain, is it?
It is exactly the same villain. Yes.
Yeah. The stats 48-18.
Yeah, exactly the same villain. So again, interestingly, same spot as well.
And you've gone a bit smaller.
Gone a bit smaller this time. So
yeah. With one of the same villains behind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just be more. I mean, this is better than the 2.4x. I would say, as a rule, when someone 3x's in those games, just make it €2. When you're 2.5x, just make it 8.
Yeah. Okay.
Just over 3x. So 3x, then a bit more, and then you won't be going. Then at least you're being consistent.
Fair enough.
But when they min raise, just fucking make it 8 still. Make it 8 like your smallest 3-bet size.
Okay. And we get 2 folds, and they come along.
Okay. Which is good because we know how they played the last hand.
Yeah.
So this is. I mean, these might not have been in chronological order for all I know, but for terms of this video, it's good.
Yeah.
So he checks.
Yeah.
We already know he can have jacks in range because that's
Yeah.
what he had last time.
Yeah.
Who knows if he has kings in range too or not. I'm not going to ask you to look for his 4-bet stat because we've got 160 hands, so I'm not interested.
Yeah.
He probably has 5s in range sometime along. Maybe we think he maybe limp calls that. Then we know if he's got jacks, he probably has 10s, 9s, 8s, 7s. Draws wise, yeah, he'll have some flush draws and some backdoor flush draws, but he'll also have the same combos that aren't flush draws and aren't backdoor flush draws. So overall, what do we think of this flop? Are we happy? Are we happy? Are we kind of like, yeah, it's okay, I suppose, or are we like, fuck's sake?
I think it's okay. I think, yeah, I was thinking it's okay.
Yeah, it's no more than okay, is it?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like the last one was fucking delightful.
Yeah.
This is like, right, okay, we probably still have the best hand, but it's nowhere near as exciting a spot as the last one was.
No.
There's 2 pairs. I mean, he has King Jack as well, for example. So he has like stuff like Queen 10 that's not folding and has reasonable equity against us. He has King Jack, Pocket Jacks, Pocket 5s, maybe flush draws. So even though we got 2 aces, they're going to be quite vulnerable on lots of different runouts. But the question is, do we still have a bet at this point? You know, there's going to be where the board's going to change and we're going to have to slow down maybe. But at this point, do we have a bet?
I think so.
And what size?
On the small, maybe a third. I think.
Yeah, I like that better this time. The last hand, when we had the aces on the 7-5-5 or the 7-7-5, whichever one it was, we just had like loads of equity. We're like way ahead, way behind. You know, we as it happens against the exact hand, we had like fucking 90% equity. There's every chance here we have nowhere near 90% equity. We have anything from we're behind to a set, which means we've got fucking about 10%, maybe 15% equity. To we're behind to 2 pairs that we've got maybe like 30% equity against. To we're flipping against draws. If he's got like Queen 10 of clubs, he's probably a small favourite. So our equity is way murkier here. So I think in that situation we do just want to bet smaller. I agree.
Yeah.
I think this is like a pretty nice 1/3 bet, I think.
Yeah, and I'll probably go the other way this time, but I'll go 50%.
It's got a little bit bigger half pot,
yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
And this will be you reacting to the board texture, thinking the board's wetter, so I need to bet bigger. When actually we don't. On these wet boards, we don't want to be building pots as early. We want to do a bit more checking. Or we want to do basically on these sort of board textures. Theoretically, I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying we want to do more checking and more smaller betting, and then on the later streets when the board doesn't change as much as it could have done. Say this runs out 4 of diamonds on the turn and deuce of spades on the river, so we get like a really bricky run out. That's when we can start sizing our bets up because the board hasn't changed much. But we don't really want to put a large bet in here, see the fucking queen of clubs roll off or the 10 of clubs roll off, and our hand's virtually dead. Like, right, okay, well, we can't put any more money in now. So I would go small bet here. I don't think we check, but I think I would just be using small bet only.
Yeah.
So I think this is a little bit big, but it's not a huge problem. Not against a fish.
Great. Yeah. They cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I asked for this hand specifically, didn't I? We won't spoil for the chat, but yeah, I asked for this hand specifically. And to be fair, when I was looking at it from just the grid, it didn't tell me that on the turn we had an SPR of 1. So it didn't tell me that from the grid, did it? Because, well, what's going to happen here is Villain's going to bet, Simon's going to raise. And I was like, let's look at that one, because I don't think that's the turn we should be raising. But now I've seen the SPR is just 1, because I presumed, like, we'd still be relatively deep with, like, a higher SPR. But now I know it. Now I can see why you've done it now.
Yeah, but also I had a specific read on this player. So this hand is prior to the Queen's. So the Queen's happened after this one.
Okay.
And I'd seen this player lead on this sort of like a flush, like with a bluff, a couple of, and I'd seen him do some really strange things. So there was a specific read on this player. So if this guy's doing that, then I'm not getting involved at all.
Right.
So yeah, it's a very big bet, obviously. But that was my read, and yeah.
But still, why are we playing race here? Can we not just like call and shut our eyes and call any river? And then that way, maybe if he has got like a complete airball here that just has to fall when we jam, and who knows what that could be. I mean, there might not be a hand that exists, and he might have 0 folds when he does this. In that case, we may as well just fucking stick it in if he's never folding. But why not just, if you think he's got air here, why not just call and then just call the river?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
If your read here is, I've seen this guy do this with like stone bluffs, then there's no reason to jam, is there?
No, fair enough.
And if he's doing this with like a pair plus a flush draw, or if he's just turned a flush draw, if he's just got, say, the king of clubs, and now he's like, well, fuck it, I've got a pair and a flush draw, maybe, yeah, he's going to call that to a, not maybe, he's definitely calling that to a jam. But it just doesn't make sense. If you're thinking, if your read here is, I've seen this guy do this with bluffs, it makes no sense to raise.
Mm-hmm.
We just call and then just call river, and if he checks river, we just put the rest in ourselves.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That does make sense. Yeah, no, that's
So
fair point.
Yeah, I'm still not on board with the raise. I get that. I mean, we've got top sets, so we're not folding anyway. But I get that. You're right. You know, it's not a great card for like us. We'd rather not have seen a club, for example. We'd rather not have seen an ace, to be honest, because
yeah.
The queen 10 and the flush gets there. So it's not a great card, but I totally get why you stacked off here. We have to, but I wouldn't have. I know you're going to raise all in here, and I wouldn't have done that because there's just no reason to. And now you give me your read that you've seen this guy bluff doing this. That's even less reason to raise.
Yeah, no, okay. Yeah, that makes
sense.
Like
there's a disconnect there.
There
raise,
is,
and probably because you're like, yeah, it's committed, I'm raising. And I'm probably fucking nitpicking here. But would you have raised here if he had... We got 21 left. What if he had, say, 18 behind here? What would you have done then? Because that's the more pertinent question, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think I would have. I'm just looking at what he's got behind, I think, and just thinking, right, let's just get it in now. And
so if he had, say, another 18 behind, do you think you'd just call it?
I think probably yes. Yeah,
that's all right then. That's okay. Because like jamming here when he's got 18 behind would be like a mega overplay.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just it's stack related here.
Yeah, fair enough.
So we do that.
There's not dwelling much further.
Yeah. Michael, and they did have the straight.
Yeah, never mind.
So it's what it is.
Yeah, that wouldn't have even looked at the hand if I'd known his stack depth. But it did, like it would be interesting. I wish you had more chips, not because I wish you'd lost more money, but to see how you would have responded had he had, say he covered you, for example. So there's still 20 to play for on the turn. I'm interested if you actually would have just called rather than jammed, because you're saying you have, and I believe you. But you say things in these review sessions that doesn't replicate itself in games. So it would have been interesting to see if you actually did. Because I think there we just call.
Yeah.
Even on the even if he did have the same amount of chips as all covered us against this play with the read you talked about, and I'm looking at his like one when bet river of just 33%. I think there we just have to call against that player. But I'm wondering if you would have called, or if you would have still just said fuck it, I've got a set, I'm all in.
With a bigger stack behind, I think I just call.
Yeah, fair enough. And I'm not disbelieving you, but as we've established many times, with all of us, there's quite often a big disconnect between what we do in and out of game, isn't there? And it's not just you I'm having to go out there, because I know for a fact I'm absolutely the same, and so is nearly every person I've ever talked to about poker. Everyone's far better. Tommy from the Discord group, I do lots of hand reviews with him, because I think he's a good player. I learned from him. Hopefully he learns a few things from me. We do quite a lot of work together. And the amount of times that he's like, I think I should do this, and he doesn't do it. And he's a good player who plays a lot and studies. So if he's doing it, then I'm doing it and you're doing it too. So it's not a dig at you. It's just, knowing what we should do and executing are two very different things.
Yeah, absolutely. All right to do another one, or?
How much time have you got?
I'm all right. I'm fine for time. time for time.
As in Five time, as in.
Well, I don't think there's. I don't think there's loads more to look at.
How many more hands is there? Let's have a look.
Oh, there is a few. So, should we do another 2 or 3?
We've done 3 hands on this video. Well, it's up to you. If you've got enough time, we'll do a second video. If not, we'll just do one more hand and you choose it.
Okay. All right. Well, we can do a second one if you want.
Right.
I didn't give you one last week, did I?
No, you were misses.
Yeah.
Right. Well, okay. Let's leave it there then. Fucking, I'm going to do a lot of it. That's 2. I'm going to do 2 with Owen yesterday. I'm going to do 2 with you today. I'm doing my own hand review videos. Fucking, I might have to release more than 1 video a day at this fucking rate. I'm going to be very proficient. This will get me up to me fucking 500 views a week. If I release 7 videos a week, I might get 500 views in a week. Fucking go on. Anyways, we'll leave it there. Cheers for that, Simon. And we'll see you all on the next video.